Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. So, Dune. Pretty sure you all know what Dune is by now. You know, the original novel is considered one of the best and biggest sci fi novels ever. And for the longest time, it felt like no one could really make a Dune movie properly. I mean, I know there was the 1984 movie, but that was not it. And, the director, David Lynch, like, he disowns it. So that should tell you all you need to know about that. And there was, like, some weird sci fi channel thing in the early 2000s. I never really looked that deep into that. But for the longest time, I felt like no one could really do a Dune movie. Like, no one could really do it justice. Until Denis Villeneuve came along and was like, you know what? I'm going to make a Dune movie. And so he did. And that first Dune movie was way back in 2021. This right here. And I was worried for it because, I mean, sure, it was made by a director that I quite like, and Denis Villeneuve. But his last movie, well, before Dune, was Blade Runner 2049, a movie that I really like, but that movie was a flop financially. It did not do well, and that made me a little scared about Dune's chances. It didn't help that this movie had to deal with, a recovering marketplace after COVID wiped out movie theaters in 2020, and it was like a slow climb getting back to that 2019 those 2019 numbers. But then this was also a victim of the HBO Max experiment, an infamous experiment where all of Warner Brothers movies were going to be playing in theaters and going to be on HBO Max at the same time, and that experiment was a total disaster. Only like two movies were able to survive. Well, three, four. Is it one, two, three? At least five movies were able to survive that shitstorm, and Dune was one of them. In fact, it was the biggest of the bunch, at least domestically. It opened with 41 million, made 109 million domestically, 434 million worldwide. Solid result considering its budget, and it definitely would have made more if it wasn't attached to HBO Max. Well, I'm sorry, the former HBO Max. My bad. So, yeah, and it also had a really good reception, critics wise and audience wise. Reception was very good. So they were like, okay, we're gonna make part two because this whole thing was split. Like, Dune was not really a standalone. Well, it is, but not really. This is like a two-parter, like how Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse, that's a two-parter. Or, well, originally Dead Reckoning Part 1, Part 2, that was supposed to be it, but then Dead Reckoning flopped, and so they're changing the name of Mission Impossible 8. But yeah, but ignoring that, Dune is always meant to be like a two-parter movie, and because the first part was successful enough in Warner Brothers' eyes, they gave the green light to the second part, and now here we are. So yeah, and obviously, so the first pro is that this is based off a well-known, you know, a well-known brand. Sure, it's not on the same level as a Star Wars or a Star Trek, but it's rising up those ranks. It's getting up there, and Doom Part Two is definitely going to help that. But yeah, so brand name recognition and the a successful predecessor, those two things are both pros. So that's pros one and two. Another pro is the fact that this is like truly the first event movie of 2024, because let me tell you, these last few months have been so damn miserable. Like, I I can't even describe it. It's been awful. I mean, sure we had some hits here and there, like Mean Girls or A Beekeeper or Bob Marley, but I wouldn't consider those big money movies, not like blockbuster movies. We haven't had a real blockbuster in the market since like Christmas with Wonka, and even then that it only opened like moderately. It did fine, but it wasn't like it didn't like blow up initially. It just had really long legs. But we haven't had a big money movie that opened big since like what, October with Five Nights at Freddy's and the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert movie. Like it's been that long. Because everything else has just kind of been like, in terms of like at least openings, very meh. Like I think that was the last time we saw like a 50 million opening was in October. Because yeah, it was. How sad is that? So yeah, it's been a long time since we had a real blockbuster in the marketplace, and the market is starving for one. Like 2024 has been such a miserable ride. Just and this will finally get 2024 out of its funk. And so this movie's kind of being positioned as like a savior, if you will, the savior of cinema. So I would consider that to be a pro. The fact that business has been so depressing, and like this is the first movie that of the year that makes people go, yes, I need to see that on the big screen. So yeah, this being the first event movie of 2024, I'm definitely labeling that as a pro. Another pro, I might as well mention this because why not? Competition. What? What? Where? Like, as I mentioned, box office has been miserable the past 2 months. It's been a hellish period, and February was not very good. I mean, Bob Marley is the only movie that could really celebrate. Everything else was just terrible, and yeah, so there's no direct competition at all. At least not right now. There's gonna be some competition later on, but for right now, there's nothing. It's a clear path to the finish line. It's a clear path to victory for Dune Part Two. So yeah, no competition. That's a pro. Another pro is the reception for this movie, which is quite good. I would say very good. It's on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Its critic score is at 94%, audience score 95%, and its cinema score is an A. I think that I don't need to go much further than that. So great critic score, audience score, cinema score, all those through the roof. Pro, obviously. Another pro is its Thursday night numbers. Thursday night made 12 million. Although technically 2 million of that was from a special thing they did on Sunday, I think for IMAX only. So it's really 10 million previews with 2 million like lumped into it. But that's still a great number. That's a number I haven't seen again since October, since Five Nights at Freddy's. Like seriously. And I can't believe I live in a world where I where the last blockbuster we had, the last movie that opened big was Five Nights at Freddy's. Of all the movies, that was it. That one. Okay, but still, these numbers are very, very impressive. I mean, let's compare that to the first movie. Like even ignoring that 2 million, if we count it as just 10 million, Dune with HBO Max and a whole had a preview number of 5.1. So Dune Part 2 doubled that. So that's a fantastic sign. That's a sign that this movie is going to make some money. And it's always good for a sequel to do like significantly better than the first movie. And that's definitely going to happen here. So, yeah, preview numbers are really good. I might as well just look at overall preview numbers. Okay, so it's on the list. So let's compare it to some other movies, like where it stacks. That's bigger than Venom Let There Be Carnage. It's bigger than, see, Ant-Man the Wasp, Wonder Woman, Oppenheimer, bigger than that. And bigger than Five Nights at Freddy's down here. And bigger than Fate of the Furious and It Chapter 2. So these movies are like opening at like an 80, 90, 100 million range. I think that might be a little bit ambitious for Dune Part 2, but still, it's in really good territory, I would say, when it comes to box office. So, yeah, strong preview numbers. I'm going to label that as a pro. And I guess I can mention, the marketing. Warner Brothers, they've been pushing this movie very hard. They know for a fact that this movie, you know, this is the big one for 2024. They know they have to give it their all with this because 2024 is quite grim when it comes to potential blockbusters. It's rough. Like there's no obvious billion-dollar movies besides, I don't know, Despicable Me 4 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Even then, it's like a 50-50 chance. And I guess Inside Out 2 as well, like, with that also 50-50 chance. There's no movie I could confidently say will make $1 billion. So we need hits, and we need a lot of them. And Warner Brothers knows that they can't afford to screw up with Dune Part 2. So they've been pushing it real hard with marketing. And the thing is, if this came out in November, its marketing would have been quite a bit more muted because you wouldn't have had Zendaya. All right. That's the whole reason why this even got delayed in the first place. Because with the writer's strike and the actor strike, with the actor strike, you can't have actors promoting their movies. So you can't have Zendaya promote the movie. And considering how big Zendaya is, Warner Brothers were not willing to take that chance, and they thought it would be better to just push it back. And that's what they did. And in hindsight, that ended up being a good thing because now Dune Part 2, again, is positioned as the first event of 2024. So, yeah. So, yeah, Warner Brothers been pushing this real hard. They want it to succeed. They want it to be a hit. So I gotta label that as a pro. Strong marketing. And I might as well mention the cast too. It's a lot of names. I'm not gonna go over all of them in detail because that's gonna take too long. A lot of notable names. Timothy Chalamet, he just had Wonka several months ago, which was like the one movie that came out during the holiday season that actually lived up to blockbuster potential. So to go from that to this, I mean, it's great. I mean, Timothy Chalamet's having a good time right now at the box office. And then you got Zendaya. Everyone knows who she is. I mean, she's MJ in the Spider-Man, the Home trilogy. I guess that's what we're calling it. There's also Euphoria. I mean, man, she's big, definitely. And we also have a ton of people here: Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler. He's a new addition. He's fresh off of Elvis. And man, just seeing him in this movie, comparing that to Elvis, like that's such a change, a dramatic change. It's something, but I respect it. So yeah, you got Austin Butler, you got Florence Pugh, Black Widow's sister in the MCU. Her, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, Leah Sedux. I think that's how I never know how to say her name. I'm probably messing it up. Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem. Yeah, big cast, very big cast here. And you're seeing like Christopher Walken in a movie like this is kind of weird because he's kind of known for more comedic stuff. But to see him in a movie like this, nice change of pace, I would say. But yeah, we have a big ensemble cast, lots of big names. And I always say it's even if like the track records of all the actors individually, even if they're not great, if you group them all together, it makes it way more appealing. And that's the case here. So yeah, strong ensemble cast. Gotta label that as a pro. And I think that's it with pros. Okay, cons. These aren't serious cons, but they're cons I feel like I'd need to bring up. So Dune Part 2, after seeing it, yes, I did watch this Thursday night. I gotta say, like, as good as it was, I feel like people who are expecting like a sci-fi action movie, they're gonna be a little pissed, or at least a little annoyed, because this isn't that. This isn't like a fast-paced action movie. No, this is a slow burn, just like the first one, which I don't mind. But I feel like a lot of people expecting like a sci-fi action movie, and you're not really gonna get that. There's action in there, okay? It does exist, and it's very good, but it's not like a straightforward action movie. Okay, it's very much a slow burn. So some people might. So this may not appeal to everybody. Just like how I thought about Dune Part One, I feel like that wasn't gonna appeal to everybody considering what it was. So yeah, I'm gonna label that as a minor con. Another con is the fact that there's competition coming up in March. None of it that extreme, really, but it's still gonna affect Dune. It's still gonna take up all its big screens and everything. I mean, Kung Fu Panda 4 next weekend. The 15th, that's a dead weekend pretty much. Then you got Ghostbusters Frozen Empire after that. Then you got Godzilla X Kong New Empire after that. So you got three blockbuster-esque movies opening in March. And those are obviously going to chip away at Dune. So, yeah, upcoming block big movie, let's just say, yeah, upcoming big movie competition. I'm going to label that as a con. And I think that, well, I guess there's going to be front loading because obviously this is like, established brand. People who've seen the first movie, who love the Dune property, are going to rush to see the sequel. So there's going to be a bit of front loading, at least opening weekend. There will be. I don't know how much, but I can't imagine it's going to be like super extreme, but it's going to be there. So yeah, expected fan front loading. I'm going to label that as a con. And I think that's it. Okay, that's really okay. So opening weekend, um, this movie's projected to hit 80 million. It's been projected to hit that for a while. I think it could still do it. I think it has a shot. So, but I'm gonna do this a little. Okay, I'm gonna have my prediction be a little wide, just to be safe. So I'm gonna say it's gonna open between 75 and 85 million. 75 to 85. That's what I'm gonna go with. And its final total, it should have good legs. I'd be surprised if it didn't have strong legs, considering its reputation. But I don't know. I mean, the first Dune, that didn't have strong legs, but that was partially because of HBO. Well, that was mostly because of HBO Max. And also the fact that the next weekend after that, it was like Halloween. That's never good for the box office. Dune Part 2 doesn't have to deal with that. So its legs should be better, realistically. I'm going to say 200 million. 200 plus million. I can definitely see that. So that's what I'm going to go with. And that's it. Only one movie this weekend, which is great. So now, next weekend, we got three movies to discuss. We got Cabrini. We got Imaginary, a movie that's been advertised so much in the last few weeks. It really perplexes me. And then the big one of the three, Kung Fu Panda 4. That will be next weekend. So stay tuned for those videos. But yeah, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. We'll check out more videos like this. I got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I've made on the channel. You want to watch any of the ones I've made this year or the past few years. Hell, if you want to like go to my 2021 playlist and find my prediction for Dune, well, Dune Part 1, you want to find that, you can go right ahead. And there's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I've covered Dune Part 2 5 times. Yes, 5 times. So I'll just tell you which episodes those were. So the first time was episode 86. That's when Dune Part 2 got its 2023, its initial 2023 date of October 2023. And I talked about it alongside 65 and Man from Toronto. So that was the first time. Second time was episode 135, where it got pushed back to November of, yes, November of 2023. And, I believe it was like mid November. Yeah, it was mid November. And then Godzilla, and I also talked about it alongside, well, I called it Godzilla versus Kong 2. It wasn't called Godzilla X Kong, not yet. Yeah, I talked about those two for episode 135. And then for episode 160, yes, 160, I talked about Doom Part 2 again and how it got pushed up to the beginning of November because Blade was supposed to come out, and it sure didn't. I have a feeling that movie's never going to come out at the rate it's going, but we'll see. And then I also talked about it alongside Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes when it got its 2024 movie. And then a new M. Night Shyamalan movie for 2024. I forgot what that was. Was it The Watchers? I don't know if it was that. I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be that, it might not be that. I don't know. But that was the third time I talked about it. This is when I truly believed Doom Part 2 was going to come out November 3rd. I was excited. I was hyped. I was ready to go. And then those fucking strikes happened, and all my my hopes were crushed of it making 2023. Because then episode 202, it happened. Doom Part 2 got delayed to March of this year. And the thing is, I knew it was gonna happen. I didn't want to accept it, but I knew it was gonna happen. And it did. And then, Godzilla X Kong, and then Lord of the Rings Roar of the Royum, whatever that is. Those got delayed too. So, yeah, that was the fourth time. It was a sad time, sad video to make. And the last time I talked about it was episode 219. So, which was when Dune Part 2 was supposed to come out the 15th. It was supposed to come out in 2 weeks, but then they moved it up to the 1st after The Fall Guy, which was supposed to come out in March, got moved to May. So, yeah, and I also talked about it alongside The First Omen, which got its April date. So those are the 5 times I talked about Dune Part 2. I just made another canceled episode 236, where I talked about Bad Boys 4, The Watchers, Mutant Mayhem 2, Paw Patrol 3, and the Naked Gun reboot, and some others. So you want to watch that episode or any other ones I've made on the channel, want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you do that, so go do it. And there's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. Next week, I will be making my February recap. And man, that video is going to be real sad. I have like one positive thing to say that whole video. Maybe two. I guess maybe two. One, but serious positive. Everything else is going to be so damn negative. Ugh. It's not going to be fun, but I mean, that's what happened in February. Not much I can do about that. So yeah, stay tuned for that video. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.